Hey guys, Alan here, Solid Rock Class. Thanks for being with me. Today we are changing subjects a little bit here, and I ran across a podcast this last week, and the podcast I was listening to had nothing to do with church whatsoever, had nothing to do with the Bible whatsoever. But about point 3 of their 5-point outline on it, it came to a point that it's like, wow, this makes so much sense for the Christian life at the same time. And so we're going to call this 5 Signs You Don't Take Eternity Seriously. Now, where I pulled this podcast from, it's something I listen to quite often. I listen to some of the Ramsey Network stuff. And I was listening to something in regards to retirement. And it started out as 5 signs you don't take retirement seriously. And as we look at this, I'm gonna mention both of them as we kind of go through here, side by side. But of course, my concern is more to be on the spiritual side than what it is the financial side with this thing. But I think we'll all agree there is a retirement crisis that's happening in America today. There's no question. I'm in elderly people's homes almost every day. And I see this. I see the fact that people have nothing saved and they're living on almost nothing. And there's some reasons for that crisis. And I've seen it for years and years, but it seems like it's much worse now than what it was. But we also have this spiritual crisis in America. And the very first point I want us to look at is, within our lives, we don't have set goals. Now, on the financial side, the funny thing is that 50% of people don't save anything. And the ones then that save, for the most part, don't save enough. So an average person at age 40, and of course this is averages, has $93,000 saved. You say, wow, that's a whole lot. No, that's not a lot. The scary thing is that at age 50, that same average is only $160,000. So, that's not going to go a long ways in retirement. But spiritually, let's look at this. What are our goals that we have spiritually? You say, well, how do you have spiritual goals? Have spiritual goals for the family. I want my family to grow up. I want them to take and serve God. I want them to be in church. I want them to be in ministry. Everybody should be someplace in ministry. And just like retirement, the best time to start, it was probably 20 to 30 years ago. But the second best time to start is today. So make goals for your family to serve God. Make goals that your kids are going to be Christians, that when they turn 16, 18, 20 years old, they don't throw it out the window. But go even beyond that. Make sure that your grandkids are going to serve God. Make sure your grandkids are going to go to heaven. I quoted a song a few weeks ago, and it was called Just Be There. And you know what? I want my kids to be there. I want my grandkids to be there. I want my family to be there. I don't just want to be there by myself. We look at Proverbs, the 22nd chapter, verse 6, and it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. Man, that is a great promise. But it says, train up a child. Train them. Train them. We look at 2 Timothy, the 2 Timothy, the first chapter, verses 5 and 6. He says, when I call to remembrance the unfrigid faith that is in thee, which dwelt first in thy grandmother Lois and thy mother Eunice, and am persuaded is in you also. Wherefore I put thee in remembrance, that thou stir up the gift of God which is in thee by putting on of my hands. Notice Paul is talking here to Timothy, and he says, I saw it in your grandmother. I saw it in your mother. And now I see it in you. And you know what? That is the goal that I have for my family. That they've seen it in their grandparents. They've seen it in their parents. And now we're going to see it in our grandparents. You know, the Bible talks about an inheritance. And that's just not a monetary inheritance we're talking about when the Bible talks to us about inheritance. We look at Proverbs, the 13th chapter, verse 22. He says, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. We can look at that and talk about it financially, but I think it has much more of a spiritual ring to the bell, doesn't it, to you? I want to leave a legacy for my children. I want to leave a legacy for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. In Joshua, the 14th chapter, verse number 9, it says, and Moses swore on that day, saying, surely the land wherein my feet have trodden shall be thine inheritance, and thy children's forever, because thou hast wholly followed the Lord my God. There is a key factor, isn't there? We follow God. We follow his leading. See, we need a goal. The goal to take our family with us. To take and wholly follow God here. So, you know, the first point is that there's no vision here. There's no goals. The second thing here is, as far as a point, there's no investing. Now, I don't necessarily want to retire wealthy. I want to retire with some sort of dignity where people don't have to take care of me. And I'm sure that's what you want to do also. You know, I see seniors every day living on less than $1,000 a month that they get on their SSI. Because all their life they spent everything they had. They didn't invest in the future. No investment. And I don't think most people realize this. In fact, I know most people don't realize this. But a person that's 45 years old, if they take and invest 15% of their income till they're 65, 20 years on an average salary, they can have a very, very good retirement. Well, God's kingdom here, we also have to invest. Now, I'm not talking, again, just monetarily. I'm talking about treasures to take our kids with us, our grandkids with us. Matthew, the 6th chapter, verse 19, he says, lay up for yourself treasures on earth, lay not up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, but where thieves break through and steal. I can't read this morning, can I? And he goes on in verse 20. He says, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through and steal. See, we must invest in God's kingdom. And investing in God's kingdom is not just dollars and cents. It's not just out of the paycheck. It's not just the tithe. It's not just investing in missionaries. We have to invest time. We have to invest time with our families. We have to invest time where they see us in ministry, where they see the importance. There's a spiritual investment that's training a child right. That's teaching children God's ways. Taking your kids with you, soul winning. Take them to spiritual events. We used to take with our boys, as you know, both of them, they grew up a lot doing a lot of magic and Christian magic. We used to take them every year to the Christian Magicians Association that they had down in the Los Angeles area. Now, it was a lot of fun. I loved to go. I loved to be around these people. And they were great Christian people for the most part. And we had these biblical examples here of things that they could do in ministry and use in the future, and both of them have. So let's go back to our points. People are in trouble spiritually because they don't have goals. They don't have investment. But the other thing is that they have debt. Now, everyday thing as far as retirement goes. We was talking remember we're talking retirement on one side and we're talking about spiritual on the other side. People have debt in the financial world. They've borrowed from their future with car loans and home equity loans and credit card debt. And you can't invest if you've got your whole future borrowed out. If you've borrowed from your future, you can't invest today. And that has a lot to do with the spiritual side. See, many times we steal from our future, from our children's future. See, balance is a key here. We have to take and spend that time, of course, working. And we have to spend that time in ministry. And we have to spend that time with family. Balance is an absolute key. You put one of them out of kilter and they're all out of kilter. And of course you need some camping trips with the kids. And you need some vacations with the kids. And they need something other than 24 hours of church. In fact, I've seen people that have kids that have totally revolted over that. Many lose their kids due to that. Not that it's bad, it's just doesn't seem to work. There has to be this balance. But again, those kids, they need to see you in ministry. Those kids and those grandkids, they need to see that you're living for God, you're going to heaven, and they want to do the same thing you're doing. See, the thing is, people like to follow people of success. And we need to show them that road to success in their spiritual life. I've also seen where that parents will take and they actually punish their kids, and they'll punish them by not allowing them to go to maybe a special church activity. Hey, the wrong thing to do. You may punish them. You may have to hold them back from things. Don't hold them back from God. Don't hold them back from a church activity that they need to be involved in. Don't give your kids the idea that church and God are okay to visit a couple of times a month so that we call ourselves a Christian. See, we got to invest. We've got to be there. We've got to be there with a good balance. See, if you borrow from your kid's future, they're going to be bankrupt spiritually when they grow up. And they're going to be looking for other answers. They'll not serve God. They'll not know God. And that kind of runs into my point number 4 I've got here, which is overspending. In retirement, a lot of the problem is that people overspend. A lot of times people say, I don't have money to invest in my retirement. And by the way, I had somebody the other day that told me, they said, hey, I don't have money to invest in my retirement. But I don't have any retirement savings, but I'm in my 50s now, and I guess I need to maybe start thinking about it. Oh boy. I mean, it's never too late to be thinking about it, but it should have happened 20, 30 years ago. Because that's when retirement works for you. An average American family today will spend as much as $1,500 on things that aren't even necessary. They overspend. So, when you overspend, you don't have time to invest. Spiritually, we overspend. We overspend in sports. We overspend in vacations and trips. We overspend in ski trips. We overinvest. And there's not a balance there that needs to be. A good spiritual balance. Matthew 6:21, it says, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." Show me your checkbook, I'll show you your priorities. Okay, last point. I'm going to finish this up. You have no budget. There has to be a plan. There has to be a goal, but there has to be a plan. A plan of how to spend your money is wise. Without a plan, you're not going to get any place. You're going to spin your wheels financially. And spiritually, a budget means if you don't have plans, you've got a plan to serve God. It's not just like, if I've got time, I'll be there. If I've got time, we'll do this. Plan to serve God. Plan to go to church. Plan to spend time with things with spiritual meaning. Put yourself and your family in a place to serve God. To serve God on a daily basis. Just like if we live long enough, we're going to come to a retirement age. Well, at some point in time, we're going to die. Some point in time, our children are going to die. At some point, our grandchildren are going to die, and I want them to go to heaven. Job 7th chapter, verse 1. It says, "Is there not an appointed time to man, to earth? Upon earth, I'm sorry." We have an appointed time here. We don't know what that is. It could be 10 years. We could lose a child or a grandchild at 10 years. We could lose a person at 110 years. We don't know what that timeline looks like. So it has to be a lifelong project, much like retirement does. Hebrews 9th chapter, verse 27, it says, "As it is appointed unto men once to die, and what? After that, the judgment." So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to mention the 5 points, put it all together. The reason people have a spiritual crisis as well as a financial crisis is they don't have goals. We need to have goals. They don't invest. We need to invest. They don't spend time. You don't spend time for your future. We can't waste time in our money. We have to have plans. This is Alan. I'll catch up with you a bit later. Thanks for being with me this morning.